I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Just a pencil, some thread, and dreams stitched tighter than any hem I've ever sewn. My days were a messy blend of chalk stains and laughter. I'd come home with ink smudges on my cheeks, threads tangled in my hair, and ideas bursting out of my old sketchbook. The thrift shop was my runway, the market my treasure trove. Every scrap of fabric spoke to me, told me stories, whispered what it could become in the right hands. Sora, you're daydreaming again. My best friend Mian would laugh as I stitched yet another ridiculous bow onto a recycled blazer. It's not daydreaming, I'd grin, needle between my fingers. It's pre-production. We giggled like fools, sitting on cracked sidewalks with neighborhood kids around us. I taught them how to patch jeans, embroider initials. Their eyes sparkled when I told them they didn't need money to look like magic. Cut to vibrant scenes of crowded street markets, the rhythmic clatter of my old sewing machine. Kids cheering as we unveil their DIY outfits. Close-ups of my hands dancing across fabric, the flicker of a candle burning late into the night. Voiceover of me narrating. I never thought my tiny world of thread and dreams would ever touch something as distant as royalty. But somehow, fate had me on the spool already, ready to unravel something bigger than I ever imagined. That night, everything changed. My mom's hands trembled as she folded laundry, her voice barely above a whisper. You've been chosen, Sora, by the royal family. You're to marry Crown Prince Rihan. I blinked at her. My breath hitched in my throat. What? What does that even mean? I've never even met him. She exchanged a look with my dad, who sat stiffly across the table, his fingers interlaced tightly. It was a promise made generations ago, he said, the weight of years in his voice. Our family, we owe them. We never thought they'd call on it. I stood up, knocking over my cup of tea. So I'm supposed to marry some stranger because of some ancient deal? Do I even get a say? I'm sorry, sweetheart, Mom whispered, her eyes glassy. I wish we could protect you from this. I turned away, heart pounding so loudly I could barely think. My dreams of running my own fashion line, of carving my own path, were unraveling faster than any fraying hem. Cut to me sitting on the edge of my bed, my laptop open to royal family genealogy pages. My eyes trace centuries of names I have no connection to. Childhood photos lie scattered across my desk, me in overalls, hugging my sewing machine, laughing with Mian. You look like a ghost, Mian said, dropping a bag of snacks beside me. Because my life was just hijacked by history, I muttered. We sat there in silence before she nudged me with a chopstick. Want to watch a trashy romance drama and pretend it's your future? I let out a dry laugh, already tearing into the instant noodles. Only if I get to be the runaway bride. She smiled. Too late. You're already trending, future Queen Sora. My laugh turned to tears before I could stop them. Mian pulled me into a hug. And for a little while, between bites of noodles and ridiculous voiceovers, I forgot just how much everything had changed. The royal garden was too quiet. Too perfect. Like a painting that didn't belong in real life. The flowers were too symmetrical, the air too crisp. Then I saw him, standing like he was carved out of marble. So you're the girl I'm to marry, Rihan said, his tone dry as toast. He didn't even look at me properly. You look underwhelming. My heart thudded, not from nerves, from irritation. I crossed my arms, meeting his cool stare head-on. And you look like someone who's never done his own laundry. Or had a genuine conversation. That got his attention. His head tilted slightly, lips curling into a smirk. Bold. For someone wearing combat boots to a royal garden. They're vintage, I shot back. Unlike your personality. He laughed under his breath. Interesting. Most girls would be swooning by now. Well, most girls aren't me. And you're not that swoon-worthy. For a moment, there was silence. Tension buzzed between us. Not the romantic kind, but like static before a storm. From a high stone balcony, Queen Hiren observed us like we were chess pieces. Her expression unreadable. Rihan leaned in, his voice low. You're different. So are viruses. Doesn't mean they're welcome. He chuckled as he stepped back. This'll be fun. I didn't reply. I just turned and walked the opposite way. our silhouettes parting like two threads pulling in opposite directions. But even then, I had this sinking feeling. Fate wasn't done stitching us together just yet. The ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, 1,000 lights dancing off polished marble and jeweled gowns. Silence rippled through the nobles like a whispered rumor. All eyes were on me. Queen Hyarin's gaze was cold steel wrapped in velvet. She stood regally at the head of the hall, her crown catching the light like a blade. "You may decline," she said, her voice crisp, almost a dare. "No one would judge you for it." I felt the weight of every stare, the press of expectation. I turned my head slightly to him. "Rihan." He stood tall, unreadable, but his jaw clenched just once. His hands were behind his back, but I noticed the faint twitch of one finger. "Waiting." I met his eyes. Then I said clearly and calmly, "No. I accept." The room erupted in gasps. Flashbulbs sparked like sudden stars. Reporters leaned forward, scribbling. Somewhere, a wineglass shattered on the floor. The queen's teacup rattled violently in its saucer, though her hands remained still. Her lips were tight. Rihan's expression cracked. Surprise flickered in his eyes, a flash of lightning behind dark clouds. Later. A quieter room. No eyes, just us. He shut the door behind him with a soft click. "You didn't have to say yes," he said. His voice was low, almost pleading. "You don't know what you're stepping into." "I know enough," I replied. He took a step closer. "You'll be hated. You'll be challenged. They'll try to break you." I looked up at him. "Let them try." His jaw worked silently. "Why?" he finally asked, quieter this time. "Why did you say yes?" I met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Because someone has to shake your world, Rihan. And it might as well be me." I became a headline overnight. Commoner to crown? Royal mess or true love? Who is she? Every screen lit up with my face. Every whisper seemed louder. "You're really marrying him?" Someone squealed in the hallway as a cluster of phones pointed at me. Camera flashes flickered like lightning. I flinched. A girl I barely knew, Nara maybe, gawked at me, clutching her phone like it was sacred. "Are you pregnant or something? Is this a royal PR stunt?" "It's not what it looks like," I muttered, trying to push through the crowd. My voice didn't carry. No one wanted the truth. They just wanted the story. Laughter followed me down the corridor like smoke. Every hallway was a battlefield now. Every glance was loaded. Smirks, sneers, whispers behind textbook shields. I passed a group of classmates huddled around a screen. My face played on loop, mid-blink and awkward. "Pause it. Look at her expression. She's like a deer in headlights." "Rihan must have lost a bet," someone snickered. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. "Keep walking. Don't give them the satisfaction." In class, I barely heard the lecture. Notes blurred on my page. The noise of my thoughts drowned everything out. At the end of the day, as I opened my locker, something fluttered to the ground. A small sticky note. Bright yellow. "Be bold. Ms. K." Just that. Slanted handwriting. The only kindness I'd seen all day. My throat tightened. I ducked into the bathroom and locked the stall. My backpack hit the floor with a soft thud as I slid down the cold metal door. I cried quiet, angry tears that I wiped away too fast. A pause. A breath. Then I looked in the mirror. Red eyes. Blotchy skin. But something fierce staring back. I squared my shoulders. Let them whisper. Let them watch. If this was going to be war, I'd make sure I didn't lose. Leo walked into class like he owned the air. Confident. Calm. Dangerous. The kind of presence that turned heads without trying. He scanned the room once, eyes like storm clouds. Then they landed on me. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. He was already pulling out the chair next to me before I could answer. His voice was smooth, low, measured, like someone used to being listened to. I blinked. "It's free," I said, too late, too soft. He smirked just a little, the corner of his mouth lifting like he'd already won something. From that moment, he was just there, in my orbit. An unexpected, uninvited gravity. At lunch, when two girls stage whispered "Royal Pet Project" behind me, Leo turned his head slowly and gave them a stare so sharp it could have sliced steel. They say cowards whisper because they can't survive a real conversation, he said calmly, loud enough to carry. The girls flushed and disappeared down the hall like smoke. Thanks, I said afterward, wary. Don't mention it, he replied, already walking beside me like it was natural. Literally. Don't. It'll ruin my reputation. I should have laughed. I didn't trust it. Not yet. A week later, we ended up in the same study group. Just the two of us still working late after the others bailed. He looked over his notebook, then up at me. You always tense up when someone tries to help you. You notice that? I blinked. I don't need help. He raised an eyebrow. Didn't say you did. Just said you tense. Later, books closed and notes forgotten. We found ourselves on the rooftop outside the library, cool wind in our hair, the city lights like stars under our feet. Do you miss how things used to be? He asked, leaning back on his hands. I don't remember what used to be feels like, I admitted. A pause. You're surviving, he said softly, but that's not the same as living. I didn't answer. He reached out, just barely, and touched my wrist. His fingers were warm. You don't belong in their cage, he said. I looked at him, really looked. And for one dangerous second, I believed him. That night in the palace garden, the world felt hushed. Lanterns flickered low in the trees, and the scent of jasmine clung to the air like a secret. Rihan sat beside me on the stone bench, legs stretched out, arms resting loosely. For once, his posture wasn't stiff with royal weight. He looked human. You confuse me, he said at last, his voice quieter than usual. You don't fear me. You don't flatter me. Most people do one or the other. I glanced at him. His eyes were fixed on the koi pond, reflecting moonlight like a fractured mirror. Maybe I see the boy behind the title, I said softly. His gaze flicked toward me, sharp, searching, but I didn't look away. You see me, he murmured, like he hadn't realized it until I said it aloud. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't press or push. Then he surprised me. I used to sneak out to the stables, he said suddenly, voice a little lighter. They'd always find me curled up next to one of the horses. My tutors hated it. Said I smelled like hay and rebellion. I laughed. You? Rebellious. He smirked. Don't let the crown fool you. What changed? My mother died. He looked down. After that, everything had to look perfect. The vulnerability in his voice made something shift inside me. My father ran a tailoring shop, I offered, almost without thinking. I used to sort buttons and organize thread when I was little. I'd make little crowns out of scrap fabric and pretend I was royalty. Rihan turned to me, smiling softly. Looks like you got your wish. I never said it was a good wish. We both laughed, easy and real, like the garden had its own gravity keeping everything gentle. A firefly drifted between us, blinking slowly. His hand moved closer. Mine did too. Not touching. Not quite. But almost. His voice was quieter now, almost reverent. You make this all feel different. I swallowed. Maybe it's supposed to. Our fingers nearly brushed. Breath caught between what was and what could be. And in that small, quiet moment, something began. It rained the day Leo bared his soul. The kind of rain that soaked through clothes and pretenses. We stood beneath the awning by the empty sports hall. Just us, the storm, and words too heavy to carry any longer. His hair clung to his forehead, his jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides. But when he looked at me, it wasn't anger in his eyes. It was grief. I was meant to be crown prince, Leo said, voice cracking. I was born first. But my mother, she wasn't her. He laughed bitterly. So they erased me. Hid me away. Said I was unfit. Unworthy. I had barely breathed. They gave it to him. He spat the word like it tasted of ash. Rihan gets everything. The crown. The kingdom. The spotlight. His eyes softened. And now, I want it back. And I want you. I stepped back. Leo. He moved toward me, desperate now. I see you. You're not just some pawn in their game, you're fire. And with you. No, my voice broke. I can't be your revenge. The words shattered the moment. He blinked, stunned. I turned and ran into the rain. My shoes slipped on the wet stone path, heart pounding in my ears. He didn't chase me. Didn't call my name. Just silence behind me. Flashback. The orphanage playground, years ago. Children laughing. A girl crouches over a scraped knee, tears in her eyes. A boy, mud on his shoes, hair wild, kneels beside her, holding out a broken toy he'd tried to fix. "Don't cry," he whispers. "It still works." "See." The girl takes it, sniffling, smiles faintly. He watches her run off, unnoticed. A moment forgotten by her, remembered by him. Back in the present, rain trails down Leo's face. He stands alone beneath the awning, hands trembling. His lips move. No sound. Just the haunted look of someone who's waited too long to be chosen. When Leo's mother died, the palace changed. The halls grew quieter, tense, like the whole structure had exhaled and didn't know how to breathe back in. Leo disappeared behind locked doors. Grief wrapped around him like armor. And then, days later, came the king's decree. "It's your turn now, son," King Seojun said to Rihan, his voice heavy with finality. "Wear the crown well." Rihan didn't speak. He simply nodded once, jaw tight, as if he'd been waiting for this moment all his life and now wished he hadn't. And just like that, without ceremony, without choice, I was engaged to a king. The coronation was all gold and silence. Applause thundering like a storm, but Rihan stood on the dais like a ghost in royal robes. Crown pressed to his brow. Eyes searching for something. For someone. He found me later, down a quiet corridor away from the noise, where the candles flickered and the weight of everything settled into shadows. I turned as I heard him approach, his footsteps softer than usual. He wasn't wearing the crown now. Just his face. He stopped in front of me, hands at his sides. For a second, he didn't say anything. Then, barely louder than a breath, "I'm scared." It cracked something in me. Not the prince. Not the king. Just Rihan. A boy who'd been groomed for power but not for pain. I stepped closer. "Good." His eyes flicked up, startled. "That means you'll care," I said gently. "It means the crown won't crush you. Not if you remember that fear isn't weakness, it's warning." He stared at me, expression unreadable. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, he whispered, "Stay?" My heart squeezed. "I'm here." He closed his eyes for a moment, like he needed that to steady himself. And when he opened them again, he looked real. Still afraid. Still uncertain. But ready to walk back into the light with me beside him. The palace gates loomed behind me, tall and gilded, more like prison bars than protection. My suitcase dragged behind me, but it felt heavier than just clothes. It carried memories. Expectations. Almosts. Rihan stood a few steps away, hands in his coat pockets, shoulders tense beneath his new title. "I can't be just a symbol," I told him, my voice shaking despite how long I'd rehearsed the words. "I need to find who I am. Not who they want me to be." He didn't argue. Didn't beg. Just looked at me like he was memorizing my face. "I know," he said quietly. "And I'd never ask you to lose yourself for me." I blinked fast, swallowing a lump in my throat. He stepped closer, the space between us charged but respectful. "Then go," he said, his voice softer now, raw. "And if fate is kind," he hesitated, then met my eyes. "You'll find your way back." My heart cracked, but I nodded. It was time. I turned. As I walked through the gates, the world seemed to blur. Flashbacks flickered in rhythm with my footsteps. Our first argument in the library, voices low but sharp, two stubborn sparks clashing in velvet shadows. His sudden laugh at my terrible impression of the royal etiquette tutor, both of us collapsing into breathless giggles behind the throne room curtain. The garden night, fireflies, laughter, our hands almost touching. That charged silence before we both looked away. I reached the train station just before sunrise. The sky stretched pale and bruised over the city skyline. I sat by the window, suitcase beside me. The train jolted forward. No music. No chatter. Just quiet. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, unadorned. Unclaimed. Becoming. And though my chest ached, I knew this was right. To leave wasn't to abandon. It was to begin. My studio smelled like fresh fabric and possibility. Sunlight streamed through the wide windows, dust motes dancing in the air like glitter. Rolls of fabric leaned against the wall, half-finished sketches pinned to a corkboard above my desk. There were coffee stains on my work table, pins in my hair, thread on my sleeves, and for the first time in a long, long time, I was me. No titles, no cameras, no whispered court gossip trailing behind me like smoke. Just the soft hum of the sewing machine, the quiet joy of creation. I stitched. I designed. I laughed with the girl in the mirror again. The contest was small, local, mostly students and fresh designers, but when they called my name for first place, I froze. Then applause. Flashes. A moment I'd made all on my own. Afterward, a young reporter caught me outside with a notepad and an eager grin. "Your work is bold, unexpected," she said. "What's your inspiration?" I blinked, surprised by the question. My instinct was to give a polished answer, but I didn't have to do that anymore. I smiled instead. A real one. "Someone who once called me interesting," I said softly. She blinked, curious. "A mentor?" I laughed, eyes drifting to the city's skyline. "No, just someone who saw me before I saw myself." The reporter jotted it down with a grin. But I wasn't thinking about the interview anymore. I was thinking about a pair of dark eyes in a quiet garden, a laugh that always came a second late, a hand that never quite reached mine. It happened. He came on a Tuesday. The studio was quiet, sunlight slanting through the blinds, the soft hum of life outside blending with the whir of my thoughts. I was mid-stitch when the bell above the door rang, a sound I'd come to associate with small joys and new beginnings. But when I looked up, I dropped the fabric. Rihan stood in the doorway. No royal robes. No entourage. Just a dark coat damp with rain, and a bouquet of pale wildflowers clutched awkwardly in one hand. He looked older somehow. Not in years, but in weight carried. In truth worn openly. "I'm not here as a king," he said, voice steady but quiet. "Not with a crown. Not with promises others wrote for me." He stepped forward, eyes locked on mine. "Just as a man, will you marry me again?" The world went still. I pressed my hand to my chest as tears stung the backs of my eyes. 1,000 images crashed into me. What we'd survived, what we'd almost become, what we had to break to rebuild. "I never really stopped loving you," I whispered. His breath caught. And then, his eyes, wide and full of something soft and breaking. Our hands, trembling as they found each other. The kiss we never had, slow, hesitant at first, then everything. Time stopped, and we let it. No stage, no cameras, no crowns. Just two people, two equals, finding their way home. It wasn't a royal affair. No carriages, no formal declarations, no golden scrolls. Just flowers, friends, and forever. We married in the garden where it all began, where fireflies once danced between almosts and unsaid things. Now it was strung with fairy lights and laughter. The scent of lavender and lemon cake drifted through the air, and someone's aunt cried before the vows even began. There were no thrones, no titles spoken, just hands held tightly. Vows whispered through smiles and tears. And this time, I chose love. Not duty, not fate. Just him, just me, just us. As twilight fell, we danced barefoot under the lights, the world slipping away to the sound of a slow, quiet song. I rested my head against Rihan's shoulder, his hand warm at my back. He whispered, "This feels like breathing again." I smiled. That's how I know it's real. Laughter rang out as I tossed the bouquet. Myeon, bright, chaotic, beloved Myeon, leaped for it with a triumphant shriek and tumbled straight into Leo's arms, sending both of them toppling into the grass. Everyone burst into laughter. Even Leo cracked a grin, brushing petals from his hair as Myeon held the bouquet above her head like a trophy. And off to the side, dressed in silver and silence, the queen dabbed at the corner of her eye with a silk handkerchief. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. I caught her gaze. She gave me the smallest of nods. Approval. respect, maybe even pride. Later that night, as we watched lanterns float across the sky, Rihan laced our fingers together. "No more cages," he murmured. "No more crowns," I whispered back. "Just the stars. Just our story. Just everything still ahead." I watched from the edge of memory as Grandmother Hiren sat in her sun-drenched chamber, the windows open, the scent of jasmine drifting in with the breeze. Her hands trembled slightly as she unfolded my letter, ink still fresh, the handwriting imperfect but familiar. She read slowly, lips moving with each word. Then, just for a moment, she closed her eyes. A smile curved across her face, tender and knowing. "She's expecting," she whispered to the maid standing quietly behind her. Her voice cracked just enough to reveal the emotion tucked beneath her grace. "Our future queen is with child." The palace is quiet now, not the silence of tension, but of peace. Rihan and I stand on the balcony, bathed in sunset light. The sky is a painting of gold and blush, streaked with hope. His hand rests on the gentle curve of my belly, and mine rests over his. He looks at me like he always has, like I'm a question he never wants answered. I smile at him, one hand brushing hair from my face, wind catching the edges of my robe. He leans close and murmurs, "Do you think they'll have your fire?" I laugh softly. "Only if they're lucky." Below, the garden glows with fairy lights. A familiar melody plays somewhere, slow, rich, full of memory. The music swells, and the camera pulls back. Two figures on a balcony. The sun was setting behind them. The future is already unfolding. From chaos came peace. From duty came choice. And from pain it came love.
If you like this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like these only at StoryTimes.